happening now. The beach side in Daytona Beach is flooded with law enforcement searching for this man you see here, a murder suspect who is considered armed and dangerous.
She was weeks away from graduating. A nursing degree, a career, a future she had spent years building. Late nights studying, early mornings at work. Every sacrifice pointed toward one finish line that was finally close enough to touch. And on one Tuesday night in Gainesville, Florida, all of it was gone. Not by accident, not by illness, by the man she was trying to walk away from. Her name was Brooke Elizabeth Smith. She was 23 years old, and this is her story. Gainesville, Florida is a college town in the truest sense. It moves at the rhythm of the University of Florida. Students coming in, students graduating out. The whole city built around that cycle of people arriving with ambition and leaving with a degree and a direction. Brooke Smith fit that picture exactly. She was a senior in the University of Florida's College of Nursing, deep into one of the most demanding academic programs in the country. The BSN, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, is not a degree you coast through. It is clinical hours, board prep, pressure from every angle. And Brooke was doing it. She was close. August graduation was already on the calendar. Outside of school, she worked at YogaPod, a fitness studio in Gainesville. People who knew her described her the way you describe someone who actually makes a room feel different when they walk in. Kind, dedicated, present. She had a plan for her life, and she was working it every single day. That is who Brooke Smith was. Now, Xavon Perry III, 31 years old, also living in Gainesville. By the accounts of people who knew him, including his own family, he was not a quiet presence. His cousin would later describe him simply, "My cousin was full of life." That is how the people who loved him saw him. And that matters, because it is easy in these cases to flatten people into their worst moment. Xavon Perry was a full human being before he became the name attached to this crime. The two things are both true. What is also true is this. Xavon Perry had a criminal history. Charges for grand theft, domestic violence, resisting an officer. These were not rumors. These were on record. And at some point, Brooke Smith and Xavon Perry were in a romantic relationship. Now, here is where the honest answer is. The sources on the full picture of their relationship are limited. What police confirmed is basic. They were together romantically, and by the night, everything fell apart. Brooke was trying to end it. Or at the very least, she was trying to create distance between herself and Xavon. What happened inside that relationship day to day, over whatever length of time they were together? Most of that lived in private, between them, the way most relationship pain does. What came out publicly came mostly after the fact, and one of those things came from Xavon's own family. After everything happened, his cousin went online. She posted publicly. She made claims that Brooke had allegedly been in multiple relationships at the same time, that she had allegedly given Xavon an incurable illness. These were the family's words. Not confirmed by police, not confirmed by any official investigation. And even Xavon's cousin, in the same post where she raised those allegations, said this, and this is a direct quote. "That doesn't justify my cousin killing this young lady." So even the people who loved him, who were grieving him, who felt the need to tell his side, even they drew the line at what he did. That is where we are before we get to that Tuesday night. Two people, a relationship carrying weight that neither of them had put down, and a moment that was coming, that had been building, whether anyone on the outside could see it or not. There is a specific moment in abusive or controlling relationships that researchers and law enforcement both describe as the most dangerous point. Not the beginning, not the middle, not even the worst argument before everything breaks. The most dangerous moment is when one person decides to leave. That is not a theory. That is what the data says, consistently, across decades of domestic violence research. The period when a victim attempts to end a relationship or create distance from a controlling partner, that window, is when the risk of serious harm and death is at its absolute highest. Brooke Smith was in that window. Police confirmed it. She was attempting to end the relationship or at minimum pull back from it when the fatal confrontation occurred. That detail is not a footnote. It is the center of what happened that night. Now think about what that means for a moment. The very act of trying to protect herself, trying to do the right thing, the healthy thing, the thing every resource and hotline and counselor would tell her to do, that act is what brought the danger to a head. That is the cruelty of it. And it is a cruelty that repeats itself in cases like this over and over again. Xavon Perry's record already had a domestic violence charge on it before any of this. That fact was sitting in a file somewhere. And on the night Brooke made her move to step back, that history became something much worse than a charge on a record. The Creek's Edge condominiums sit on Northwest 23rd Boulevard in Gainesville, a residential complex. Neighbors, people going about their evening. On the night of May 26th, those neighbors heard gunshots. By the time Gainesville Police Department officers arrived on scene, Brooke Elizabeth Smith was already down. She had been shot. Emergency responders were there. They worked. But there was nothing to be done. Brooke was pronounced dead at the scene. She was 23 years old. Inside that unit, in that complex, on what should have been an ordinary Tuesday night, her life ended. Not at the end of an illness, not in an accident, at the hands of someone she had been close enough to trust. Xavon Perry III was not there when officers arrived. He was already gone. No call for help. No attempt to stay and face what had just happened. The moment Brooke fell, he moved. And he moved fast. By the time investigators were even beginning to piece together what had occurred at Creek's Edge, Xavon was already putting serious distance between himself and Gainesville, heading east, toward the coast. That drive, Gainesville to Daytona Beach, is just over an hour. He made it. Daytona Beach, Florida is not the kind of city where you disappear quietly. It is a beachside city. Boardwalks, tourists, the Main Street Pier stretching out over the Atlantic, music, crowds, noise. If Xavon Perry thought the chaos of it would swallow him up, he miscalculated, because Daytona Beach Police spotted his vehicle. They moved to pull him over. He didn't stop. Instead, Xavon hit the gas and led officers on a high-speed chase through the city. It didn't last long in terms of distance. The pursuit ended near the Main Street Beach approach when Xavon abandoned his car on foot and ran, straight toward the water, straight toward the pier. Now, if you have never seen the Main Street Pier, picture this. It extends out over the ocean, elevated above the beach below. That night, with officers closing in from behind, Xavon Perry ran to the edge of that structure, and he jumped. 20 feet, straight down onto the sand. An officer on the scene said it plainly. He probably broke a bone for sure, like that's a 20-foot drop. And yet, by the time officers got down to beach level, he was gone. Video footage confirmed the jump happened. It showed him go over. And then, nothing. He had dissolved into the dark, into the beach, into whatever direction the night took him.
A murder suspect from Gainesville is on the run in Volusia County. Police say he was last spotted by the Main Street Pier and is considered armed and dangerous. Let's choose Volusia County reporter Pamela Combe live in Daytona Beach with what police are doing to track him down. Pam.
Well, police have really upped their presence in this area on the boardwalk and the actual beach itself. This is the last place he was seen, the Main Street Pier. Police say he jumped off the pier. That's about a 20-foot drop before he landed on the beach, and that was the last time he was seen. Increased patrols in Daytona Beach Wednesday after a murder suspect jumped off the Main Street Pier and disappeared.
He probably broke a bone for sure. It's a 20-foot drop.
Daytona Beach police are now searching for 31-year-old Xavon Perry. Gainesville police say Perry shot and killed a 23-year-old woman Tuesday night, then took off. Officers tracked him to Daytona Beach, where police tried to pull him over, but investigators say he took off, abandoning his car near the Main Street Beach approach.
He ended up on the pier, and based on what we can tell from video footage, at some point he jumped from the pier back onto the beach, at which time we lost sight of him.
Since then, the search has only intensified. Police say Perry made threats of suicide by cop.
We were informed that at some point he was streaming live on social media where he displayed a gun and he made suicidal statements. So I can tell you that no stone is being left unturned.
The heavy police presence has many in the beachside community on edge. Mark Rosenthal, who manages the Main Street Pier, says officers thoroughly searched the property.
They didn't find anything, but they searched the whole property thoroughly.
The chief tells us Perry might no longer be in Daytona Beach, but out of an abundance of caution, they've increased their presence beachside, and they ask anyone who sees something to report it.
Call 911 immediately from a safe distance, give us a full description, and let us come in and see if we can apprehend him safely.
And the chief just tell us that they do have Perry's car in their custody. They have not yet recovered his gun. They do tell us they don't believe he has any family in Daytona Beach and don't believe anyone is helping him hide either. Covering Volusia County, live in Daytona Beach, Pamela Combe, WESH 2 News.
But here is the layer that made this entire situation heavier than just a fugitive chase. Xavon Perry had been live on social media the whole time, streaming, while driving, while being pursued. He had a gun visible on camera, and he was making statements about not wanting to survive. Law enforcement was informed he had been expressing suicidal intent during that stream. So this was not simply a man running from consequences. This was a man who, by his own words, was not planning on making it out of that night. And that adds something to the picture that you cannot just skip past, not because it excuses anything. It never excuses what he did to Brooke. But it tells you something about where his head was in those final hours. Something had collapsed completely inside him, and he was letting people watch it happen in real time. Officers swept the pier. They searched the beach. The pier manager, Mark Rosenthal, confirmed that law enforcement went through the entire property, thoroughly. No Xavon, no gun. His car was in custody, but the man himself had simply ceased to be findable. Daytona Beach police addressed the public directly. They were honest. They did not know exactly where Perry was. They could not confirm he was even still in Daytona at that point. What they did confirm, he was armed, he was considered dangerous, and the search was not stopping.
Assuming that everyone already has the photo of the suspect? Okay. We ready? Yes. So good morning, Chief Jakari Young, Daytona Beach Police Department. I want to provide some information regarding an active ongoing search for a homicide suspect connected to a homicide that occurred in Alachua County last night. But before I provide the timeline, I want to share the suspect's information. The suspect has been identified as 31-year-old Xavon Perry. His date of birth is October 5th of 1994. Perry is described as a black male, approximately 6 feet 1 inch tall, with thin to medium build. He was last seen wearing all black clothing, white socks, and white sneakers. Based on the information currently available to law enforcement, Perry has a criminal history that includes 1 felony charge for grand theft and 2 misdemeanor charges involving domestic violence and resisting without violence. At this time, there's been 0 convictions. So at approximately 9:52 p.m., law enforcement in Alachua County responded to shots fired in the area where they located their deceased victim, and it was at that time that they identified their suspect as Xavon Perry. At approximately 11:30 p.m., the Daytona Beach Police Department was alerted through law enforcement technology that Perry was in our area. We attempted a traffic stop on his 2021 black Dodge Charger, at which time he fled, so we engaged in a pursuit. That pursuit ended on the Main Street Beach approach, at which time he fled from the vehicle. He ended up on the pier, and based on what we can tell from video footage, at some point he jumped from the pier back onto the beach, at which time we lost sight of him. So there's been an extensive search going on for Perry throughout the night. All law enforcement agencies in the area have been working collaboratively to try to locate the suspect. The Volusia County Sheriff's Office, Ormond Beach PD, Daytona Beach Shores, everybody is aware. We were informed that at some point he was streaming live on social media where he displayed a gun and he made suicidal statements. So I can tell you that no stone is being left unturned as it pertains to doing our best to try to locate the suspect. I was also informed that Alachua County is going to be releasing their own details here shortly, so I don't want to go too much into their investigation because that's obviously a separate investigation. But I can reassure the community that I'm bringing in additional resources, and it is totally all hands on deck. So I have additional resources coming in to saturate that area to ensure the safety, do our best to ensure the safety of the community and the public. Obviously, because the suspect is still at large, I'm not going to say that it's safe, but I'm going to ask the community to remain vigilant. That is the main thing I need, is for the community to remain vigilant. And if they see this guy, call 911 immediately from a safe distance, give us a full description, and let us come in and see if we can apprehend him safely. So at this time, I will take a few questions because my priority is getting back out there in the field and seeing what we need to do to come up with this suspect.
You haven't found his gun, right?
No, we have not. His vehicle is here. It is in the back, so we have evidence inside that vehicle that we need to go through, but as of right now, I have not been notified of the recovery of his firearm. No, we're not aware of him having any family in this area. Just based on what we witnessed on surveillance video, he was last seen on the beach. There is a possibility that he is no longer in the area, but we're treating this as if he is. So I can't speak directly to everything that took place last night, but I can tell you it was definitely an all hands on deck, and we did want to saturate that area in an attempt to locate this subject last night. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful, but the search continues, and we will be out there until we're able to get him into custody. All I could tell you is that it was domestic in nature, and he fled our way.
And just to reiterate, I mean, people obviously, as you said, should
Absolutely.
Are you able to probably surmise how he has been able to keep out of sight from you guys at this point?
Not at this time. We don't know if anyone's helping him. We don't believe so. We don't have any information that leads us to believe that he's being assisted. But we're just going to continue doing what we have to do as far as the search. And I'm going to wrap up with that. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Patrols increased along the boardwalk and the beach. The community, residents, workers, tourists, were watching their surroundings in a way they normally would never have to. People who lived right there, who were used to a quiet stretch of coast, were suddenly standing at their windows looking out at an active manhunt. Now, let's talk about what investigators were actually working with, because it wasn't much. They had the abandoned car near the beach approach. That told them where he had been. It told them nothing about where he went. They had the video footage of the jump. Clear enough to confirm it happened. Not clear enough to show where he landed and moved to afterward. They had the live stream, which gave them his state of mind, not his location. And they had the gun, somewhere, unaccounted for, out there. That last part is what kept the intensity of the search where it was. An armed man, possibly injured from a 20-foot fall, who had made suicidal statements on camera, with no known connections in Daytona Beach to trace him through. No family in the area, no safe house, no contact. If he was still alive, he was completely alone out there. And if he had gone into the water after that jump, which, given where he landed, was entirely possible, then the Atlantic had him. The water off that stretch of Florida coast is not gentle. Residents who lived near the beach in the days following described the ocean as rough, strong currents. The kind of water, as one neighbor put it. It doesn't surprise me that he drifted this far. For one day, nothing. Then 2 days, still nothing. The search continued. But the nature of what you are searching for begins to shift when hours stack up and leads go cold. Officers kept the presence up. The public was still being asked to call if they saw anything, but the silence from the beach said what no one had officially confirmed yet. Then, early on a Thursday morning, someone walking near the shore in Ormond Beach picked up their phone and called 911. They had found a body. Ormond Beach sits about 13 miles north of the Main Street Pier. 13 miles. The currents had carried him that far up the coastline. A resident across Ocean Shore Boulevard, Luis Suarez, watched from his window as deputies roped off a section of beach after the body was discovered just after 6 in the morning. He described his neighborhood the way most people who live there would. It's a very quiet neighborhood. Peaceful, you know. Usually don't see anything whatsoever. That morning, they did. Investigators moved in. And while the formal identification process would take the hours that it took, the working conclusion was immediate. The body belonged to Xavon Perry III. The manhunt was over.
Now to a disturbing find on the beach this morning in Volusia County. Investigators say someone found a body washed up in Ormond Beach. And as West 2's Bob Hazen reports, they believe it's an accused killer at the center of a manhunt.
That man's body washed up on the sand right here behind me in Ormond Beach. And that ends the search for a man that investigators say was dangerous and a killer.
It is disturbing in a way.
Luis Suarez lives in the neighborhood right across Ocean Shore Boulevard in Ormond Beach, and he watched deputies rope off part of the beach here after the body was found a little after 6 this morning.
It's a very quiet neighborhood, peaceful, usually don't see anything whatsoever.
Investigators say they believe that body is Xavon Perry, the man that police across the area had been searching for. Perry was wanted for the murder of a 23-year-old woman in Gainesville. Police there have said it was a domestic incident. Tuesday night, he was spotted in Daytona Beach. Police stopped him, but say he ditched his vehicle, ran onto the pier, and jumped off onto the beach and then disappeared. That started a manhunt. They called Perry armed and dangerous, but today a person called 911 saying they'd found a body washed up on shore almost 13 miles north of the pier. Luis says the water has been rough the past few days.
So the sea was agitated, really was, and the currents are very strong, so it doesn't surprise me that it drifted this long.
Officials say they are still working to confirm that body belonged to Xavon Perry, but right now they do believe that it's their man. Covering Volusia County in Ormond Beach, Bob Hazen, West 2 News.
2 days after Brooke Smith was shot and killed in her home, the man police believed pulled that trigger was recovered from the shoreline of a quiet Florida beach, 13 miles from where he had last been seen alive. There would be no arrest, no courtroom, no trial, no testimony, no verdict. The case closed in the most incomplete way a case can close. And for Brooke's family, that absence carries its own weight. A weight that the legal process, as slow and imperfect as it is, at least gives families a space to begin carrying together. The ability to sit in a courtroom, to have what happened formally acknowledged, to watch the system do what it is supposed to do. Brooke's family never got that. And that matters. There was no arrest. Let that land for a second. No courtroom. No trial date. No lawyers arguing across a room. No moment where a judge looked at the evidence and handed down a sentence. No day where Brooke's family could sit in those hard wooden seats and watch the system formally acknowledge what was taken from them. None of it. When the body recovered from that Ormond Beach shoreline was positively identified as Xavon Perry III, the file got marked closed, and Brooke's family was left holding a grief that had nowhere to go inside a legal system. Because the legal system only moves when there is someone left to hold accountable. For a lot of families in situations like this, the trial is not just about punishment, it is about the record. It is about having what happened to your person spoken out loud, under oath, in a room built for exactly that. Purpose. It is about the full story being pulled into the light. Every detail, every piece of evidence, every witness. It is about being heard by something larger than a comment section. Brooke's family did not get that hearing, and that absence, that specific, particular wound, does not heal the same way other parts of grief do. Now, while the investigation was still unfolding, something else was happening in parallel. The internet found this story, and the internet did what it does. People picked sides fast. Xavon was dragged across every platform. Comment sections filled up with judgments built on 30 seconds of information. And then, his family appeared in those same spaces. Because when someone you love is gone, and the public is saying everything about them, and that person cannot speak for themselves anymore, some families cannot stay quiet. His cousin stepped forward publicly. She posted on Facebook. She raised the allegations about infidelity. She raised the claim about the illness. She put those words into a public space where they immediately became part of how people understood this case. And even she, in that same post, drew the line. Her exact words, "That doesn't justify my cousin killing this young lady." Now, there are two things that are both true at the same time here, and it is important to hold both of them. First, those allegations were never confirmed by police, never verified by any official investigation. They were the words of a grieving family member, processing something devastating, in public. In real time. Grief does not come out clean. It never does. And when you watch someone you love get torn apart online while you are still in the middle of shock, people say things they might say differently on a different day. Second, once those words were out there, they were out there. People read them. People formed opinions around them. The way the public saw Brooke shifted for some people because of those posts. And Brooke could not respond. She could not correct anything. She could not tell her own side of any of it. That is the particular cruelty of losing your life the way she did. The story keeps moving, and you are no longer in it to shape it. The University of Florida College of Nursing released a statement after Brooke's death. It read, "There are no words that can fully express the sorrow we feel as a community or the depth of this loss." At YogaPod, the studio where Brooke worked, classes and programs were canceled for 2 full days. Not because of policy, because of people. Because the people who knew her needed a moment to stop and acknowledge that someone real was gone. That is who Brooke Smith was. The kind of person whose absence is felt immediately, whose presence had been quiet enough to go unnoticed in the way good people often go unnoticed. And then gone enough to make a room feel different. She was 23 years old, and she was weeks from the finish line she had worked years to reach. August graduation, ABSN, a career in nursing, a career built entirely around showing up for people on the worst days of their lives. That is what she had chosen. That is what she was building toward, and that is what was taken. What this case leaves behind is a question without a clean answer. What do we do with relationships that carry real damage inside them that nobody on the outside can fully see? Whatever was true between Brooke and Xavon, whatever the full picture of that relationship actually looked like, most of it lived in private. Between them. The way most relationship pain does. And by the time the public found out any part of it, one of them was already gone. Domestic violence does not always look the way people expect it to look. It is not always loud. It is not always visible. Sometimes it builds out of control and possession and a slow accumulation of moments, until someone reaches a point where they make a choice that cannot be undone. The most dangerous moment, as the research consistently shows, is the moment someone tries to leave. Brooke was in that moment. She was doing what she was supposed to do. She was trying to protect herself. And the very act of doing the right thing brought the danger to its peak. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. And it repeats itself in cases like this one because not enough people know it exists before they are already inside it. If you are in a relationship right now that feels unsafe, if you are thinking about leaving and something is telling you to be afraid of what comes next when you do, that feeling is worth listening to. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Available 24 hours a day, they will help you make a plan, a real plan, not just telling you to leave, but helping you figure out how to do it safely, because the goal is to make it out. Brooke Elizabeth Smith deserved to make it out. She deserved to walk across that stage in August. She deserved to put on scrubs and go to work and build the life she had been working toward. She deserved to grow older and tell her own story in her own words. She deserved all of that. And she is gone. Xavon Perry was 31 years old. Whatever pain he was carrying, real or imagined, confirmed or not, he made a choice. A choice that ended 2 lives, including his own. The ocean off the Florida coast has him now, and the case is closed in the most incomplete way a case can close. But Brooke's story does not close. It stays open. Because somewhere out there right now, someone is in a relationship carrying the same kind of weight. And the only thing that changes the ending is reaching out before that weight becomes something nobody can take back. That is what Brooke's story asks of every single person who hears it. Don't wait.